Welcome back. If you just joined us, our guest on this episode of Question Time is the acting chairman of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, Dr. Anthony Akah. Don't go away. Why has NERC been accusing the DISCOs of breaching the agreement of installing prepaid meters within 18 months of its operations without the federal government also admitting of reneging on its pledge to hike electricity tariff shortly after privatization?
Well, first and foremost, it's not NERC supplying meters. NERC is purely a regulatory agency. Secondly, the PPA is predicated on clear indices on its own. It's totally different. The issue there is the performance agreement was predicated on we giving them a good tariff, a cost-reflective tariff.
Does this amount to instigating the customers against the DISCOs?
The commission, Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, do not instigate any party. What we did was there are clear understanding that under pure business principle, the first thing you do is customer enumeration and then backed up with metering. Nigerians were complaining seriously about crazy billing, wrongful billing. As a regulator, it's our duty to ensure that we call distribution companies to order and say, you must have to meter Nigerians. In the interim, while you are complaining about the so-called cost-reflective tariff, we also came up with incentives where there were soft money they were given to help on this metering plan.
The Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission has been accused of frustrating the power purchase agreement. Why is this still not activated?
There are some issues involved under the transition electricity market. Clearly, the players have to post their LCs. Distribution companies, about 9 of them have posted their LC. We have about 2 of them, and anytime from now, in absence of any letter of credit, we have to request for escrowing of those accounts. Because what we are into now is a country-based electricity transaction era. It means that for every power you're taking, there's already a letter of credit that backs that power. And therefore, if you default in remitting that money back to the market operator or default in the terms with the embed or whoever, we can call on your letters of credit. So that process is there. And once we are done with that, either escrowing those accounts or at the last minute they bring in their letter of credit, we will go full blast into this contract-based.
Now let's do some economics of the implication of the power failure in Nigeria. When you see the headlines of 17.5 trillion naira being spent on generators, failed for generators, how do you feel? Isn't this an indictment on the power sector reform?
I would say that, of course, we feel very sad about it. We are also Nigerians. We have passion for what to get this thing corrected, as there are various players in the power sector. Ours is to provide the regulatory framework, and which we've done. We're also having a self-diagnosis of this regulatory framework that we've done to see which ones do we need to tweak or which ones do we need to amend, and which other regulation do we need to put into the process. So we feel very sad about it, and that's why also that the Honorable Minister of Power decided to have monthly stakeholders meeting where all players, Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NEMSA, embed, distribution companies, transmission companies, meet on a monthly basis for us to understand where are the bottlenecks, what are the practical solutions to deal with everyday practical problems.
The power sector reforms seem a never-ending gestation, isn't it?
All I can say is that with respect to the expenditures that were made, it's not within the NERC purview. Our own duty is to provide the regulatory instruments. With respect to expenditures also and investment that were made when it was run by government, it's totally different by when it's run by the private sector. The private sector knows that most of those money came from loan. And it's important for us to state also that the way we modeled the sale of these assets is such that the private sectors cannot use any of the assets of the firms or generating company to take a loan. So they mortgage their own other assets or personal investment to get subsequent loans. So they are not exposed to any business risk in terms of financial exposure to the banks. So it takes a while for us to even build generating plants.
The federal government has blamed the recent power failure on acts of sabotage, which was the usual excuse of the previous administration. And this administration, when they were wearing the cap of opposition, found such explanation very unacceptable. So would it be right to also suggest that this is an indication of cluelessness on the part of the federal government?
Let me start from the last. I do not believe, or we do not believe, that this administration is clueless. We rather believe there are clear directions now on how things are going to be done. We rather believe fundamentally now that decisions are now going to be made based on value for money in the most transparent manner.
Is the policy direction yielding any improvements or results?
We can only speak for the power sector, of which we are the sector regulators. Fundamentally, we have a fully committed and strong political will administration that is there to ensure that all the agencies created to do their job do what they need to do. Decisions are now being made, as we in NERC have been making, purely on that will have maximum impact on Nigeria for value for money. With respect to the issue about sabotage, is an issue that I don't want to comment upon. As regulator, we only deal on the one that we have the facts. We have the facts, there are clear issues about vandalization. There could be issue about sabotage, but we don't know about that. We are not looking towards that direction. It's purely a political issue. What we are looking at is, how do we address this issue about vandalization? We are going beyond our political landscape by even going to town hall meetings, massive publicity, telling Nigerians on the impact of doing vandalization, stealing of electricity, or even going on unnecessary confrontation. Why do we confront each other over a regulatory issue? Why don't you come back to the regulator and write a protest and say, this particular issue, this is wrong? And then let's sit down in an open, if possible, televised manner to dialogue on the way forward. Resort to unnecessary protests, litigations, will only expand and delay resolution of a simple process that we cannot sit down and do and get power back to Nigerians and get all the sector players to play according to the rule. As regulator, we are still pleading that all players, all aggrieved parties, to please, we are open. We are willing to come to you. We are willing to show you the data. Let's look at those fundamentals. Which one do you disagree? If you, who is manufacturing, has increased their price of goods because of economic changes, if we, our wives who are in business, have increased their prices, if shelter, that is also a necessity, just like you say that light is a necessity, the price of goods, the price of construction, materials, they've all gone high, very high. I've not seen any so much agitation against that. Let's sit down. These are economic issues, but these are reality issues. The government is mindful of the fact, how do we give power to Nigerians at the least cost and also mitigate the impact of tariff on them? We as regulator also, we are working with the policymakers, the CBN, and other government players to see how do we come up with a tariff regime that Nigerians will get value for money, Nigerians will accept, and it will trigger the more desired power generation that we are looking forward in Nigeria.
Dr. Anthony Akah, thank you very much for making our time to be part of this episode of Question Time, and also for spelling out government's resolve and determination to make a difference in the power sector supply chain to the Nigerian customers, and also for the regulatory intervention of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. We can only wish you the best of luck in this. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, thank you very much. My pleasure.
And that's it on this episode of Question Time. You may also send us your comments on our various social media platforms showing on your screen. Join us next week on another exciting episode of the show on Channels Television. Many thanks for watching. I'm Benga Ashiru saying goodbye.